Guys, I did it again. Again. I said no to another Rolex from the authorized AD, and at this point I'm starting to think that I'm never going to own a Rolex and I'm not supposed to own a Rolex. But before I get into it, if you are new to the channel, I'm Jag from Jag's Watches, and this is a watch channel that doesn't take itself too seriously. If you're looking for casual watch content, then make sure you subscribe. I post 3 times a week. Now, going back to the story and why you probably clicked on this video, I said no to yet another Rolex, and this time around I surprised myself. But going back to the first time, I made a video already on this. I said no to a Submariner date, and just to summarize that video, you can go check it out. It's a longer, fleshed out version, but ultimately I wasn't ready to buy that watch from a perspective of I didn't feel like I deserved it, and ultimately if I didn't feel like I deserved it, I wouldn't have enjoyed it, and if I didn't enjoy it, there was no point owning the watch. And 4 or 5 months down the line, I feel like I made the right decision. Fast forward to now. At that time, I then put my name down for a watch I did feel like I deserved, and I'm talking about the Rolex Explorer. For me, that watch is a classic, understated design. It has perfect proportions. I like the 40mm one. That's the one that I ended up trying on, and it's super versatile. And the time of recording this, I was looking for a daily wearer. For me, that epitomizes Rolex. That watch is so iconic, the Rolex Explorer I'm talking about. And I think it's the perfect daily watch. And that's why I put my name down for that watch. And so 3 days ago, I get a call off my Rolex AD saying, Jag, I've got the watch for you, come in. And within 10 minutes, I said no. I made a decision very quickly. And let me explain why I said no. So going back to the Submariner story, close, I would say around roughly a month after that, saying no to that watch, I came across my vintage grail, which was the 1965 Breitling Top Time, the one that was featured in the Thunderball James Bond film, and it was in such great condition, I jumped at the chance of buying it. So I met up with the vintage watch dealer in London in a random pub, and we were talking for about an hour. I got a great price for it in person, everything checked out. It had been recently serviced by Breitling. Everything was brilliant about the watch, and so I bought that watch. It was one ticked off the list. I wanted a vintage watch. It was my first vintage watch. And we got talking, and we definitely bonded in that conversation, and we're still now, as a result of that meeting, very good friends. And we were talking about what we liked, what our favorite watches were, what our interests were, and ultimately it came across that I mentioned that my grail was the No Time to Die Seamaster, which I have. I'm a huge James Bond fan, a huge fan of Omega. And then it came out that I was 30 years old. We were just talking about generally our lives, and I said I was born in 1994. That was my birth year. And then he suddenly looked at me and was like, Jag, I have a James Bond watch, an Omega with box and papers that has 1994 written on it, and is this a watch that was on your list? And he was talking about the Seamaster Professional, the Pierce Brosnan version that was in No Time to Die, Tomorrow Never Dies, World's Not Enough, and a quartz version was used in GoldenEye. And I was like, what are the chances? That's, for a watch collector, one of the things that I wanted was a birth year watch, and by getting this particular watch, I was thinking about it crazily in my head. Bearing in mind, I just bought this Breitling off this guy. He's offered me another watch, classic salesman pitch, right? But it ticked not only the box of a birth year watch, but also it was on my list for watches that I loved, and it's such an iconic watch, so much history attached to that watch. Ultimately, I said to him, look, John, I can't buy this watch off you. I've just literally bought a watch. This is where he surprised me. He turned around and said, Jag, just take it. Take it. And he came back to London 2 weeks later and he gave me the watch. He was like, just trial it for 6 months. June, that's when my birthday is. If by June you don't want the watch anymore, just give it back to me. But if you want the watch, this is the price. And just to give you some clarification, the price is great to the point where there isn't another watch in the same spec condition with box and papers. You're not going to get it for this price, basically. And if I wanted to sell the watch, I could sell it for a profit the day after buying it. So anyway, I've got the watch with me, and I'm enjoying it every day that I've been wearing it. I've been falling more in love with it. And so when I got the call from the AD, I had this watch. And ultimately, I had to make the decision between this Omega Seamaster, which is a birth year watch, which is one of my grails, or this Rolex Explorer, which is, again, in my opinion, the best everyday Rolex you can buy. And surprisingly, in my mind, I decided very quickly that keeping the Omega and not having and passing on this Explorer was the right decision. And ultimately, even though the Explorer 40 is an incredible watch, the Seamaster just meant more to me. I guess the emotional connection with the birth year watch can't be beaten. The history and the legacy behind that watch. And don't get me wrong, I know there's going to be so many people that watch this video that say the Rolex Explorer has so much history attached to it. What's wrong with you? Why would you pick this watch over that watch? And I think if you've watched my other videos, you understand that watch collecting for me is all about not what the watch represents. And I think this Omega Seamaster currently in my life represents more, and it meant more to me. And I think the idea of not keeping this watch scared me. I was like, hang on a minute, I don't think I could get rid of this watch right now. But the idea of maybe delaying getting a Rolex Explorer or not getting one at all, because this Seamaster has ticked the box for a daily now for me, that idea didn't scare me as much. And passing up on the Rolex Explorer didn't scare me as much. And I guess an element of that is to do with the fact that I know it's not too difficult to get hold of a Rolex Explorer in retail. And even in the secondary market, they don't trade much higher than the retail price. So I think that had an element to play. But does this mean I'll never own a Rolex? I have a watch channel now and I'm a huge watch enthusiast. I just feel like the watch gods are playing a game with me. And every time now I've had the opportunity to buy a Rolex, I have said no. And I'm really starting to think maybe Rolex isn't for me. And the more I think about it, the more I realize that actually I am not a huge fan of Rolex. I know Rolex is probably the most popular brand right now. It's trending on social media. Everybody loves Rolex. It's the brand with the prestige. But for me personally, I think this experience has taught me a very valuable lesson, and that is that it's not about the watch. And I've mentioned this before. It's about what the watch means to you as an individual. I'll never be that person that follows a trend and just buys something for the sake of it, for the prestige, and just to say, yeah, I've ticked a box for Rolex. I've got the Rolex now. Don't get me wrong again. I'm a huge fan of the Rolex Explorer. This is why this experience surprised me so much. And I'm interested to know what decision you would make, given the context. Try and be rational with the way you're thinking, because I know straight away a lot of people are going to say you're stupid. How can you pick a Omega Seamaster over a brand new Rolex Explorer with such an amazing movement? And I understand that argument, but just try and put yourselves in my shoes and let me know what decision you would have made if you would have made the same decision or not. I'm really intrigued to know. As of today, I feel like the watch gods, and I keep calling them the watch gods, fate has decided I am not ready for a Rolex. It's not the time for a Rolex. Will I ever own a Rolex? The more and more I get into this dark, deep hole of watch collecting, the more I distance myself from Rolex. That's what it feels like. I don't know whether I'll ever own a Rolex at this point. Maybe I'm being dramatic. I feel like maybe I'm being dramatic for the sake of this video, but that's another story. Again, I would love to know if you've ever passed on a Rolex. I feel like it's such a taboo thing to do now. And have you made the same decision as me, or have I made a big mistake? Let me know in the comments. I want to know. You can rip the hell out of me if you like in the comments. I don't care. I just want to know what you would have done in this situation if you would have gone about it the other way. I wouldn't have been comfortable with buying the Rolex as well as keeping the Omega. So already that solution wasn't possible for me. And again, I think you have to be careful in watch collecting, because you can get carried away and you can just end up buying so many watches in such a short space of time. And I think that takes away from the value of these watches and the true appreciation of the watches that you have. So I purposely am trying to create almost a gap in between buying watches so I can actually appreciate the watches that I have. Breitling Top Time, the Omega Seamaster I've mentioned. But yeah, I'm rambling on now. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. I've been Jag from Jags Watches, and timing is everything. Peace.